Have you ever felt like a complete outsider, even when you're surrounded by family? Like you're just going through the motions at a gathering you were dragged to? That's exactly where I was, stuck in a room full of cheerful relatives, feeling completely alone. I noticed someone else across the room, looking just as out of place as I felt. A fellow stranger caught in the same social trap. We exchanged a brief, knowing glance, a silent acknowledgement of our shared misery. I was counting down the minutes until I could make a polite escape back to my own world, my own quiet. Then, just as the small talk was reaching its peak, everything went black. The music died, the lights vanished, and a collective gasp filled the air. A power outage. At first, there was a bit of chaos, people fumbling for their phones, murmuring in confusion. But then, something magical happened. My aunt started lighting candles. One by one, tiny flames flickered to life, casting a warm, gentle glow across the room. The harsh electric light was gone, replaced by dancing shadows and a sense of shared adventure. Suddenly, without the distractions of phones and TVs, people started talking. Really talking. My uncle, who I'd only ever known to talk about sports, began telling a hilarious story from his youth. Cousins shared ghost stories that made us all jump and then laugh. The candlelight seemed to burn away all the pretense. It forced us to just be present, to connect in a way we hadn't before. The room, which had felt so stifling, was now filled with genuine laughter and warmth. And in the midst of it all, I found myself sitting closer to the other stranger. As the larger group conversations started to fade into a comfortable hum, we began to talk. Just the two of us, our voices low so as not to disturb the quiet intimacy of the moment. It started with the usual things, what we do, where we're from. But the darkness gave us courage. It felt like a safe space, a secret world just for us. We talked about the books we loved that no one else seemed to understand, the ridiculous dreams we had as kids, and the secret fears we still held on to as adults. It was strange how easily the words flowed, how we could talk about our hidden scars and our biggest hopes without any fear of judgment. I learned about their passion for stargazing, something I'd always been fascinated by but never pursued. They learned about my failed attempt to write a novel and, instead of laughing, they asked what it was about. In those few hours, wrapped in candlelight and quiet conversation, I felt more seen and understood than I had in years. It was as if we were peeling back layers, not just for each other, but for ourselves. We discovered we both felt like we were performing in our own lives, and for the first time, we didn't have to. The connection was immediate, and it was real. Then, as suddenly as it had gone out, the power surged back on. The lights flickered, buzzed, and then flooded the room with their harsh, unforgiving brightness. Everyone cheered, relieved to be back in the modern world. But for us, it felt like an interruption. The spell was broken. We blinked at each other in the sudden glare, two strangers again, but not really. The room was no longer just a room, and the night was no longer something to be endured. As people started to say their goodbyes, a sense of panic set in. I didn't want it to end. I didn't want to lose this. Before we could get swept away by the crowd, they looked at me and said, "I don't want this night to be over." And in that moment, I knew I had found something extraordinary. We stepped outside, away from the noise, and under the real stars. This time, we just kept talking. That power outage, that moment of darkness, had illuminated something brighter than any light bulb ever could. It showed us that sometimes you have to be plunged into the dark to find what you were truly looking for. And what we found was each other. Thanks for watching.